on Seventh-Day Adventism. Is it a cult? Is it Christian? Or is it something else? Hello there, episode one of Seventh-Day Adventism. This is the church I attended from the age of 13 until about 22 when I joined the United States Air Force. The Spokane Central Seventh-day Adventist Church. This sign that you see here is actually quite new, and I attended this church building. This addition on this side, actually, I helped put together. Now, I didn't construct it. I was only like 14, 15. But I was taken there by my stepdad sometimes in the summertime to help move rocks and clean up things, stuff like that, while I watch people who help put it together as they're trying to save money. Some of the construction was done by contractors, but some of it was done by the lay people to save money. And I was part of that team of teenage boys who's like, go move this over here, take that over there. In any case, this was the neighborhood church. And I want to just briefly discuss my introduction into Seventh-day Adventism. See, at the time, before becoming an Adventist, I was a member of the Mission Avenue Presbyterian Church. New Presbyterian Church. We were members of this, my mom and my brother and I. And I was actually baptized here at the age of 8 years old, sprinkled, not dunked. And we belonged at the time when the pastor was a Reverend Winship. He used to watch us sometimes, he and his wife with his daughters, or actually his one daughter used to watch us sometimes. And I had a crush on her. She was quite pretty. In any case, and had some really good years here. However, when I had turned 13 during that summer, there was a week where there was what was called Camp Spalding, and we were attending that as my brother and I, just as part of the camp. But my mom was working it as a camp counselor, and something was going on there. And in the middle of the week, there was a big meeting, and I remember that there was a meeting because I actually walked into that with my brother and with this maintenance guy who was showing us around. He's kind of, since my mom was working there, we were kind of hanging out with some of the people who worked there, like this guy. In any case, and then later that day, my mom grabbed us and says, "We're going home." And so one of the men from the church, I can't remember his name, but he was pretty prominent in church, very nice gentleman, gave us a ride home. My mom did tell us that we were offered to stay as boys, but that she had to leave. So something happened. Knowing the history of my mom, I don't doubt that something took place. And my mom had kind of a knack for causing rivalries and some problems sometimes. So she would tell us that this other camp counselor did something to her. As I gotten older, I'm not too sure. But in any case, when that happened, she looked for another church to go to, and she would find the Seventh-day Adventist Church. My mom was attending these Revelation seminars. I didn't know that at the time, but she got the neighbor lady from the apartment complex that we lived in. We lived here. Now, this apartment complex was on Napa and Mission Avenue, intersected right there. We lived on the second floor with this nice big window here. That was where we lived at. And it went down this way. It was the biggest apartment in the whole second floor of this apartment complex. At the time, this wasn't Family Promises. I'm not too sure what that is. But the lower half actually here was a drugstore. And I used to go down there to buy official karate magazines when they would come out down there and that part of the drugstore. But in any case, that's where we lived for a little while I was in the sixth grade while all this was taking place. And we kind of liked it. We had, to us teenagers, we had this really great view, as you can see up there with those big windows. It was kind of a neat view to have. In any case, my mom was attending these seminars. We didn't know exactly at what church. She didn't tell us. She just was going out to a church. And my brother, I was 13, he was 12. We got to have the place to ourselves. It's a pretty good deal. I can't be exactly sure on the timeline, but when she left the Presbyterian church and we were told we weren't going there again, that was approximately midsummer. And from that time until she converted was during the football season or the end of the football season. So during that time period. But during the time before she converts, she decides to have the Bible studies at our home. And while she's having them at her home, the assistant pastor of the church, I don't remember his name to this day, would come and he had this great little slideshow projection that would project onto the wall, and he'd hit it, and he played this tape, and this tape spoke about the picture and what was going on. It was all about the Book of Revelation. Now, artwork, it seemed so high tech at the time, and it would tell him when to go to the next slide, and then afterwards he would answer some questions, of which I didn't ask any. I just kind of sat there, and my mom would ask most of the questions, and Phyllis, the neighbor, who was also going to the Revelation seminars. Soon they would convert. My mom would ask us if we wanted to convert. Sure enough, we said, sure. I mean, yeah, sounds right to us. I mean, they were pretty high tech. And then my brother Jim and I would be baptized. We were baptized with one other teen. At that time, I was 13, my brother was 12, and I don't remember his name, but we were baptized all at the same time, and we were baptized here. Back to this picture, you will see behind me the stained glass. Well, behind that is a baptismal font where they dunked us. And I was baptized by Pastor Fowler. He was the one who baptized us. And he was I liked Pastor Fowler. I liked his sermons. He was an older gentleman. He would retire 2 years later from the ministry. At the time when I was at this particular church, though, there were pews up there for the choir and pews for the elders when they would come out. In any case, I was now a Seventh-day Adventist, and I kind of took to it hook, line, and sinker. I enjoyed it. I liked the presentation of its theology. It all made sense when looking at it, especially from the eyes of a 13-year-old. And so I was captivated by it, and I was captivated by how nice people were. And that was always the case throughout my time period there. And I'll probably speak about that a little later in one of the other episodes. But Seventh-day Adventism, is it a cult? Is it Christian? Or is it something else? And that's what I want to speak to. So let's get into its history just briefly. Seventh-day Adventism is really formed out of the Millerite movement. The Millerite movement was due to a pastor, William Miller. He's a Baptist pastor who was predicting the end of the world, or better yet, the second coming of Jesus Christ. And in depicting the second coming of Jesus Christ, William Miller predicts that between the spring of 1843 and the spring of 1844, Christ will return. Particularly, he picks, if I remember correctly, when I was an Adventist, October sometime. Now, Adventists don't forwardly tell this about it, but you learn it if you go to enough of the Bible studies and discussions with your Adventist friends. And what doesn't happen, he figures he gets the date wrong, and then he predicts definitively October 22nd, if I remember correctly, 1844, that Christ will return. And he really bases this off of the book of Daniel, chapter 8, verses 14 through 16, if I recall correctly, where he makes the day-year principle. And, of course, Jesus doesn't return. It seems that people have not figured out that Jesus tells us not to predict the date of his coming. But in any case, all right. So the Adventists, it's called the Great Disappointment. I mean, people in the northeastern area of the United States were heavily awaiting for this, who were following William Miller. He did not have a small following. It was quite the following he had at the time. As we see this explosion out of the 1800s in the United States of this, of these different eschatological groups coming out, whether it's the Plymouth Brethren with its view of Darbyism, also known as premillennial dispensationalism, the rapture of the church, Mormonism comes out during this time period, and as well as after this, Jehovah's Witnesses, Jehovah's Witnesses, by the way, as an aside, will get a lot of their information and views on Seventh-day Adventism. Charles T. Russell even admits to paying a debt to them. They also get other views out of Darbyism, which is not highly recognized by anyone. But anyways, I digress. So, but the people who were really involved, they just couldn't let it go. Something had to happen here. Heron Edson, who will become prominent in the development of Seventh-day Adventism, if I remember correctly, will claim to have a vision. He'll get in a deep Bible study, and he will figure out something did happen. He will come to the conviction that Christ was not foretelling through Daniel chapter 8, verse 14, his second coming, but that it is here that he will go into the holies of holies in heaven. And it is there that he will have the investigative judgment. First, cleansing of the temple in heaven, and then an investigative judgment of those who have died, and then of the living, before he returns with his second coming. And basically, the second coming, if I can go back off my childhood and my studies, will be this idea that he will come, then there'll be 1,000-year reign in heaven. So the Christians will be taken to heaven for 1,000 years, and then they'll return for the new heaven and new earth and live on a paradise earth for eternity. And that kind of gives you the quick Cliff Note version of Seventh-Day Adventism there, and its eschatological musings that help develop this denomination. So the denomination, as well as I would say it's founded by Herod Edson, depending on your source, he will sometimes be left out. It's also really founded on 4 other people. Next will be James White. One, he is a very much a key leader, editor, administrator, and he really helped organize the church structure. Next will be his wife, Ellen G. White, by far the most popular of the founders. Some Adventists will not consider her a founder, but that's because she's viewed as a prophetess, even higher. Her spiritual visions and her writings will be instrumental in Seventh-Day Adventism, even, I imagine, to this very day, but at least when I was in the Adventist movement in the late 70s throughout the 80s. Joseph Bates, a retired sea captain, who really will focus on the Sabbath part of the truth of the movement, and J.N. Andrews, who is a key theologian, so much so that Andrews University in Michigan is named after him. So those really become the founding strong members of Seventh-Day Adventism. And it officially gets the name 1863. Now, it's important to note that that's kind of a convenient date of officially saying Seventh-Day Adventist Church, because it really has been moving since 1844. They just couldn't let go of the Millerite movement. While many other people went back to their churches, some went back to other churches, some lost their faith entirely. There is a group of people who just say something important did happen on that day, and they will try to hold on to that. And this is going to take me to now me becoming an Adventist. And here I'm going to dialogue with some of their central ideas, both as how I thought about when I was a member and then looking back at it now. So stay tuned for part 2 as we conclude part 1 of Seventh-Day Adventism, cult, Christian, or something else. Thank you.